Hello and welcome back to this week's episode of In Distress, a podcast where I talk about nonsense in the comfort of my childhood bedroom. Welcome to this week's episode. Honestly, I have a lot of things to say this week, which is not shocking because I'm a certified yapper. First of all, if you are listening to this episode, please like and subscribe on whatever you're listening to it on. Follow this podcast page so that you can stay up to date on new episodes. All of my social media is linked in the link tree below. So yeah, glad we got that out of the way. Anywho, also I'm going to be talking about pop culture stuff and like new albums and some other things that are going on the internet later on. So if you want to skip ahead, feel free to do that. I have the timestamps in the description, or if you're watching on YouTube, you can just skip to the next little block of topics. It's going to be great. Anyways, so if you want to skip, please do. If not, you want to stick around and listen, feel free. But basically, I've been thinking about this podcast and my other podcast that I just started. And again, sometimes I just have to remind myself about what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. And when I think about this podcast, it's really just about me wanting other people to not experience life alone. Like, yeah, I talk about the things that I'm passionate about and that I enjoy and love, and it's fun. That's really great for me. But at the end of the day, like, the heart of this podcast is still me kind of talking about my life because life is hard. And when I was younger and in high school, I felt really alone sometimes in that feeling because, you know, obviously it's not like a feeling that you talk about with your friends at the lunch table. Like, you're not talking about, oh guys, I'm really worried about my future and what that looks like, and I feel like everybody has so many expectations for me, but I don't even know what I expect for me and what I want for my life and what I want to do. You don't really have that conversation at the lunch table, like I said. So I think, like I've said before, life is really hard, and I think that it's important to acknowledge that. At the same time, I think it's important to be optimistic and hopeful, but it's also important to acknowledge that life is all about ups and downs. And I think for me, my biggest goal is to be able to take those ups and downs for what they are and not let my like mental or like my thoughts become too affected by the things that are happening in my life. And I think that that's obviously a really hard thing to do. That's a really tough goal. But I do just want to be able to like take on the things that life brings my way and just have faith in myself that I can conquer them, but also have faith that things are going to work out and have like that optimistic like hope and stuff. So yeah. Anywho, so this week I wanted to start a new podcast, and I came up with the idea like a couple of months ago, but I didn't really know what I wanted it to look like. And I've talked about how much I like basketball before, but I really enjoy it and I wanted to have my own podcast. And when I first envisioned it, I wanted it to be like, oh, I can talk about, you know, all things basketball, NBA, WNBA. And then I ended up saying something when I was recording it the other day that like we have a lot of people talking about the NBA, but I want to have a space where we can cultivate and talk about the WNBA and where women can talk about sports and feel comfortable doing that. Because I feel like when you go into like a male dominated like area, which is like basketball in general, specifically like NBA stuff, sometimes like, and I hate to say this, like, but it's the truth, like sometimes it feels like people, or like men in particular, only want to hear pretty women talk about sports. And even when they disagree with something, like they really go in on that woman. And I get that that's just a part of it. That's just a part of the job. It's just a part of like being on the internet and stuff like that. But at the same time, I also want to build a community for like girls who like basketball, yes, but also a space where you can have an opinion, and I want people to be having conversations about the opinion, not it just being like a screaming match in the comments, just a constant back and forth, but like a conversation where, you know, like we're having like an actual conversation. And so, you know, that's like a big aspiration, big goal. I've watched a lot of basketball podcasts and stuff, and I was like, I was trying to be just like that. I was trying to be structured, and I was trying to sound professional and come correct basically to what I was doing. And I was forgetting that part of things where like having dreams and goals just takes constant courage, and it takes constant belief in yourself, and you have to constantly be confident and constantly like believe in yourself so that you can get things moving basically. And so I had recorded I'll take you at the beginning. At the beginning of the week, I had made the podcast cover, and I had started creating the intro video for the podcast, and I had even made like the intro like theme song, and I was really excited. Like I was so excited. I had planned out what I was going to talk about like down to the minute. I had like a script basically. And I was like, this is going to be so great. And it came time to record the podcast on Wednesday after I left work, and I had set everything up. And I don't know why, but it was like every single negative thought that could have come to my mind ever was present in that moment. I was sitting there and I was probably recording what was intended to be like a 20 to 30 minute episode. I was recording that for like 2 hours. And I was like, this is a bad take. This is a bad take. Let me try it like this. Let me do that. And I was just not proud of it. I cut it off after I finished it, and then I laid in my bed and I was like, what did I just do? Like, what was that? That didn't feel at all like me. I don't know what that was, but if this is what like my vision of this podcast looks like, I'm not going to do it. Like if it's not my best work, or if it's not the best version of something, and I don't feel proud of it, I'm not going to do it. And I was just like, damn, this is bad. Like this is really bad. Like I was really sitting there, and when I'm talking like the dark thoughts, like I'm talking about the really dark ones. Like I was sitting here and I was thinking, what makes you think you're qualified enough to do this? I'm actually highly qualified. I went to school to do what I do. Like I come on the internet and I yap. I went to school for that. Like I'm qualified to do that. I graduated summa cum laude, like 3.9 GPA. Like I went to school to do what I do. And I was just really questioning that. I was like, what makes you think that you can do this? Like who would ever even watch or care about what you have to say? Like you just need to sit down and shut up. You need to leave this to the professionals and let them do that. And just like really just at the root of it, just like feeling like I'm not enough, or like that the things that I do aren't going to be good enough. And I just need to just shut up and be content with the way that my life is. And that's basically it. And I recorded that episode thinking all of those things. And I just felt like shit after I was done. Like, I'm telling you, I was laying in my bed feeling like I was having a crisis, because at the same time that I was having those negative thoughts, I was also like, girl, why are you having these negative thoughts? Like, you've done this before. You know how to make a podcast. You know how to go on a camera and talk about stuff. You do it literally every day on TikTok. Like, what is the beef? Like, what's the problem? And so then not only am I like having negative thoughts, but I'm also beating myself up for having negative thoughts, like, and not realizing in that moment that chasing your dreams and your passions and your goals, like it's a lot of hard work actually. And it's every day is hard work, not just, and it's not like every day you're going to feel like shit. It's not every day you're going to have like thoughts about like feeling like nobody cares, or like you're not good enough, or feeling like an imposter. Some days are great, but then there are also days that are like the absolute worst, and you're just drowning in the echoes of your mind about negative things, about who's even going to watch this, who cares what you have to say, like you're not good enough to do this. And those are the days when that it's really work and it feels like work. The other days when it's happy and exciting and all of that stuff, and you're feeling like you're on a high, those are days when it doesn't feel like work. Like, yes, it's work, but it doesn't feel that way because you're going after something and you're pursuing a passion, you're pursuing something that you're excited about. And I was really happy and excited today, like all throughout, well, really not even today, all throughout yesterday, because technically it's Saturday. It's 7 a.m. right now. I'm posting this. This podcast is actually supposed to be up, and I'm recording it. So that's crazy. But anyways, I was sitting there and I was just like, this is interesting. This is a lot to take in. And like I said, I recorded that episode and I was like, this is terrible. But I also knew that if I let myself think that and like stew further on those thoughts and let them like breathe and have life, I knew that I wasn't going to be able to do it. And this was going to be something else that I didn't do because I was afraid. And I was like, yeah, girl, we're going to have to come back to this tomorrow. Like, feel what you feel, think what you think right now. But tomorrow, we're going to have to come in here. We're going to have to be better because I wanted to release it on Friday before I released this podcast because I knew if I waited until Saturday, I was going to put it off even further. So I was like, it has to be recorded the next day. So Thursday I went to work and I was just kind of sad because I was still kind of upset with myself for thinking the things that I thought. And I talked to my work bestie, and she kind of just asked like why I was feeling that way. And I really thought on it. And yeah, I was feeling that way because of this. That's a layer of it. But there was also a deeper layer of this of like, I've talked about this, but I'm going to be losing my job at the end of May. I'm going to be laid off. And I was just thinking about, and it occurred to me once my friend had asked me why I was feeling that way and I thought on it, that I graduated last year around this time and I was going through the whole post-grad depression thing of really just questioning what the purpose of all this was. Like, I don't have a job lined up. Everything feels like the end of the world. I feel like I'm behind. I'm comparing myself to other people and it's not great. But I was unemployed and I was at the house with my dog all day. And I was thinking about why I'm been sad a little bit. And it's really like I am about to lose my job and I'm about to be right back where I was a year ago. And I was like, wow, that's a setback. It is. That's a setback. At the same time that it's a setback and it's unfortunate, I was also like, I'm super grateful, like, for the opportunities that I've had. Like, I didn't expect to be working with kids in youth development. That was never something that I ever even thought about. And I did that and it was fun. And I learned a lot about myself and about communities and stuff like that. And I met some really great people. Like, I've made some good friends and I'm proud of like the personal growth that I've had while I've been in this situation for like the past couple of months. But just because I'm grateful for those things and I understand the lessons that I've learned, it doesn't really change the fact that I feel like I've taken a step back because I'm ending up in the exact same place that I was last year. Yeah, I'm a different person now. And yeah, I've grown a lot and different things have happened over that span of time. But it's still like, damn, my life is looking a lot like it did a year ago. But at the same time, I don't want to repeat the mistakes that I made last year of like kind of just like really sitting in that feeling of sadness and feeling like I haven't accomplished anything in my life and I haven't done anything. I don't want to sit in that feeling, but it's important to acknowledge it. Like, yes, I'm super grateful for what happened there. Also, I need to stay focused on and make time for the things that I'm passionate about and doing the things that I love. And that's what I've been doing lately and trying not to harp on those feelings. But yeah. So anyways, I was feeling that way. And then I was kind of like, I just need like a good like pick me up to kind of get myself ready once I had that realization to get myself ready to record later that night on Thursday. So there's this TED Talk that I used to listen to when I was younger, when I was like in middle school. I think one of my teachers showed us a TED Talk, and then that's like back when teachers started using TED Talks to teach like certain things or like introduce concepts. And I was like, oh, this TED Talk was fun. I wonder like what other TED Talks there are. And so I would come home and I would watch a bunch of different TED Talks. And at that time, because I was in high school, I had fairly low self-esteem. I did. And so I would come home and I would watch just like the TED Talks about being yourself and being confident and self-esteem and all that stuff and motivational stuff and career paths and college and figuring out what you're going to do with your life next and what's the purpose of life. And I was watching a lot of those. And I ended up stumbling across one, and it's probably like, it's not even probably, it's my favorite TED Talk ever. And I used to watch it all the time. Like, I would come home from school and I would just watch I would watch that episode every single day. And I've taken a lot of things from it, and I've learned a lot from it. And I think with this TED Talk, like, I'm going to link it in the description below so that you can watch it if you want. I think everybody should watch it. Like, I literally tell a lot of people about it if I ever get the chance to, and I show it to almost everybody. So I was at work that Thursday, and so we were going to have, like, the kids come to the center, and we needed, like, an activity for them to do. So I was like, I really want to watch this TED Talk because I really need to hear it, and I need to talk about, like, I just need to, like, be kind of reminded of, like, being myself and showing up for me and being myself, because while I was recording that podcast that Wednesday, it just didn't feel like me. It didn't feel like I was being myself. Like, I was just trying too hard to make that podcast sound and look like the podcast that I've heard and seen before. And I was like, just needed to be reminded that, like, being myself is, like, the thing that's gonna get me where I want to go in life. Like, yeah, you can have you can have everything else that you need, and you can have, like, the perfect plan to get your business off the ground or to get followers on the internet. But at the end of the day, like, if you're not being yourself and showing up authentically, like, it doesn't really matter, right? So I'm sitting there and I'm listening to this TED Talk that I've heard 1,000 times. And it's kind of like when you go back and watch a movie, or, like, you finally hear, like, a piece of advice that your parent gave you growing up that, like, you didn't necessarily, like, understand, like, the full meaning and, like, at the time that you heard it. And so I'm sitting there and I'm listening to the lady talk, and I'm just giving her my undivided 20 minutes of attention. And she starts the TED Talk off with this idea that you're the truest version of yourself when you're young and when you're old. And it's the part in the middle that's hard to navigate. So, like, when you're young, she gives this example that you can go into, like, a kindergarten, or a first grade classroom, and you can ask who's the strongest kid or the fastest kid in the class, and everybody will raise their hand. And then after, like, the age of, like, 7, or around the age of 7, is kind of when society kind of starts, taking its toll on kids and on people's minds, that, actually there is somebody who is the strongest. There is somebody who is the fastest, and not everybody is that. And so you go to maybe, like, a 3rd grade or a 4th grade classroom, and you ask who's the strongest kid, and, maybe people go and point to who they think is the strongest or who is the fastest. And that's kind of the beginning of not being yourself, I guess, is what she's getting at there. And I find that really interesting, but also true. And so ever since I heard that when I was in middle school, I've just been constantly trying to find the way to be the true version, get back to being that true version of myself. Because in those years, like when you're young and you're not thinking about what everybody's thinking, what everybody would say about the things that you're doing, what everybody's gonna, like, just like the commentary that comes with you living your life, when you're not thinking about that actively, I feel like you're just happier in life anyways. But also when you're older, you also do that thing where you're just kind of like, like when you see older people on the internet and they have videos and they're just, like, being brutally honest with people, like their grandkids or something, or yeah. And I feel like I really just want to get to that, like, but I want that to be a part of my life throughout, or at least for as long as I can make it that way. Like, I don't want it to just be I was only ever the truest version of myself when I was younger and when I was older. I want it to be like I was the truest version of myself throughout, or for more of my life than I wasn't. And so, like I said, ever since I heard that piece of advice when I was in middle school, I've been trying my best to do that and implement that in my life, and to just start doing things because I want to do them, and to have confidence in the things that I do and not care so much about other people's expectations of me, and figure out what I want for my life and then do those things, like, and mean them and be myself while doing them. And so I was hearing that and I was like, this is great. This is exactly what I needed to hear right now. I really needed this reminder. And so then she kind of goes on to talking about how in that time of life, you just get caught up in trying to be what or who other people think you are. And she talks about this idea of interiority, which she kind of says, like, there's like inferiority and then there's superiority, and then inferiority is like in the middle. So inferiority is obviously like being kind of like over humble, if you will. And then superiority, we all know what that is, which is kind of being egotistical and thinking that like you're the best. Yeah, that's what it is. Inferiority is like thinking, oh, I'm the worst. I need to stay. Like I am the worst. Like I'm terrible. Things don't need to be about me. I'm fine. Like just kind of like that. And then there's interiority, where you're not being so hard on yourself, but you're also not being egotistical, but like you're just existing as you are and as you are in the present. And I think like the best quote that she has about that is kind of, she compares like that interiority to being like the sky. Like, like there are days when it's really dark and cloudy, and then there are days when when the sun is shining and there's a rainbow outside and it looks amazing and beautiful. But the sky doesn't like boast about the beauty that it can create, but it also doesn't like, diminish itself because it's gray and gloomy. Like the sky is just the sky. It just exists as it is. And I was like, I really just needed that. I did. And she really just talks about like this theory, and really it's not even like a theory, but she talks about like she has this eye, right? And then there's like little circles that make up the eye. So like think of like a circle, right? And then just think about smaller circles. So like there's different levels. So like the outside layer of the circle is like asking yourself, what do others think of you? And that's like, yeah, what do others think of you? And then there's another circle inside of that. And then you're supposed to ask yourself, how do you want others to see you? And then there's another circle inside of that of how do you see you? And answering all those questions is like important to getting to the heart of like being your authentic self and becoming the truest version of yourself, not in like kind of like breaking the mold of like allowing yourself to not be in like the superiority mindset, but also not being in the inferiority mindset. And like I said, I just really needed to hear that. And, she also just goes on to talk about how you just have to be as good at being yourself as others are at being them. And she says that while like showing pictures of like Barack Obama and Maya Angelou and Martin Luther King, Gandhi, Ellen, Oprah, people like that, like, people who are like seen as and deemed as successful, and people who had like, who really made like their lives purposeful and really lived their lives with a message for people. And she ends up like showing this clip of Jill Scott, and Jill Scott is like a poet and a singer, and she's really great. She's a Black woman, strong Black woman. We love her. And she kind of talks about that, and she ends up playing this clip, and it's like at a music festival, and Erykah Badu went on before her, and I think there was like an interviewer who was recording her and was kind of like, hey, like, what's it like do you get nervous knowing that you're going up after like, like this icon in music? And she was like, no, like, she has her own queendom, and then I have mine. Like we all exist separately. Like, like I'm good at my thing and she's good at her thing, and it's not about like comparing, is basically what she says. She says it a lot more eloquently, of course, but she says that. And then after that clip plays, the TED Talk speaker ends up like talking about like how your job in life is to just figure out how you're different and then being more of that. And that's how you get to being your authentic self. And really, like, that's how you find like that version of success. And that's how you kind of just get the things that you need out of life from that and from being yourself and showing up how you need to show up. And I just really needed to hear that, because when I was recording that episode of my podcast, I was kind of like, I just wasn't being myself, and I knew that, and I was just trying to be professional. I was trying to be what I've seen other people be on basketball podcasts. I was trying to show up as something that I wasn't. I was trying to be super structured, and I was trying to plan everything down to the minute, and I don't even work like that. Like, a lot of my life and a lot of the great things that have happened to me have just been because I've just been able to say stuff off the dome and talk about stuff, and it just comes out well somehow. I don't know how, but it just works that way. Me being unstructured just works that way when it comes to like creativity, like creative stuff. And I went home that day and I recorded the episode like the morning of, or like, yeah, no. I recorded the episode like, I think like, was it Friday morning? It wasn't Friday morning. It was like Thursday morning. So I had actually initially recorded Tuesday night, and then I came home Wednesday and recorded it Thursday morning before I went to work, and then edited everything and then got everything ready to post. But like I said, I just really needed to be reminded of that. And I was really happy for me that I was able to navigate that low. And it was really just like a learning experience for me. I was like, wow, like I've really come a long way from at one point when those negative thoughts would come, I would just sit in them and sulk in them for like days, weeks, and it would really affect and impact like my vision or the goals or the things that I wanted to achieve. And then now I'm at a place where, yeah, those thoughts still come up, but it's really just about like how you handle them. And I feel like I've really grown in that part of my life, and I'm really proud of myself. And I did want to come on here and talk about that because I feel like that's just something that I needed to be reminded of. And I think that that's something that a lot of people need to be reminded of, is that dreams and goals and passions and all the things that you want to do in your life, it requires constant confidence and constant belief in yourself. And there are going to be days when it's easy, but there are going to be a lot of days when it's also hard. And yeah, I just wanted to come on here and remind people to be themselves. And, you know, I really think that for me, it's important to believe that everything's going to work itself out. And at the end of the day, I just have to believe in something and have faith in something, so that when things do get tough, I can believe there's a bigger purpose here and that there is something more to life than what I'm experiencing right now. For me personally, I just cannot imagine like a world where I don't believe that there's something else out there, that this is for a greater purpose, or that like in like The Alchemist, how the man who wrote that kind of talks about how if you believe in something or you want something bad enough, the universe will conspire to give it to you, and making sure that you're like reading the signs and purpose and everything. And if you've never read that book, you definitely should. I think that man has a really great way with words, and he's very good at kind of reminding you of that you've always known like your purpose in life and the thing that you're meant to do in life. You just have to like be reminded of it. And again, kind of like the childhood thing and being like the truest version of yourself, it's kind of like you kind of let society or like your parents or like family or friends kind of tell you what you're supposed to do and who you're supposed to be. And there comes a point in your life when you have to break out of that and create the expectations for yourself and the goals that you want to achieve and the dreams that you want to achieve for yourself, and not be thinking about what other people are thinking or what they're going to think or what they're going to say, and just living your life for you. So yeah, that's where I'm at. That was a good 29 minutes for me. It was. I was really working hard in here, guys. I really was. Anywho, we can get to like the interesting pop culture stuff now. This is like perfect timing. Anyways, But if you are interested in hearing my podcast, it's on this channel on YouTube if you're watching it. And then if you're not watching it and you're listening to it, it's available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and other places, I guess. But yeah, it's called Girls Who Like Hoops Podcast. Not podcast part, just Girls Who Like Hoops. If you're really going to struggle with it and you want to check it out, it's in my link tree. So, anywho. Now we're really just going to talk about, I have actually something that I do need to say. I need to get on my soapbox about something. I make a lot of like pop culture content and I talk about it on this podcast, but I make a lot of pop culture content on TikTok. And I have kind of noticed this thing because there's this thing that happened. Kim Kardashian had gone and she dyed her hair blonde a couple months ago, I guess. I don't really keep up with that woman's hair, but she had dyed her hair blonde and then she had gone dark. And then she tried to go back blonde again. And people had noticed because she had gone to like, I think one of her son's basketball games or something. And when she arrived, she had like a baseball cap on and she had the hair in a bun, but it looked really wet. Like, and people were like, I think it's gooey. Like it's damaged for sure. Like it's so porous that it's not like taking in the chemical, like it's not taking in water, like it can't dry, it's so damaged. And then the next day she ended up cutting her hair and like there were like pictures of it on the internet and stuff, and people were making TikToks about it left and right. Okay, and I like to go through the comments, so I'm scrolling through the comments and people were like, there's always that one hooker in the comments that's like, I don't know why y'all care so much about somebody else's hair. Or even like when I had posted about this other thing about Sophia Bush and like this whole thing that had happened. If you want to know about that, go check out my TikTok. I have a whole breakdown over there. But there's been some recent developments in that corner. And, I posted about them and there were people in my comments like, I don't know why you care. Y'all need to stay out of people's business and these celebrity business. And honestly, I just want to know when we stopped having fun. I really want to know that. When did we stop coming on the internet to have a good time? Like, damn, y'all are mad strict on the damn internet. And y'all love to yuck people's yum. And I hate that phrase. But it's like the only thing that I can come up with at this time. Like, it's like we've all grown up, like at least a lot of us, especially like if you were born like in the 90s or like early 2000s, like you've definitely grown up consuming pop culture. Like it's always about a celebrity. It's always Entertainment Tonight. I grew up watching that. I grew up watching Wendy Williams show. I would actually come home from high school and I would watch they would post them on YouTube and I would come home and I would watch the episodes every single day, like clockwork. I would watch my Hot Topics and I would do my homework, or I would watch my Hot Topics and eat dinner. And when I was in college, my freshman year before the show ended, I would come home from class and at the end of the day, like my roommates would be asleep and I would have my little iPad and my computer set up and I'd be playing 2K on my iPad and I would be watching Hot Topics on my computer and about to start doing my homework after that was done. Like, that's how it was going. And, like you would go to the store with your mom or your grandma or somebody, and you would see like the magazines on the shelf of like US Weekly or is it Us Weekly, US Weekly? I don't know, girl. It's something like that. Anyways, and you see like the National Enquirer, like you just see like the different like headlines of like big stories and stuff. And that's what you grow up with. Like you literally grow up consuming like pop culture and stuff about celebrities and stuff like that. And especially like influencers and stuff as we've gotten older and like the internet has developed more, like you just hear stories about people all the time. Like this is very like normal to me. Like it's not something that I like pay attention to all day, every day, 24/7. But at the same time, like the people who are so critical of people who do talk about pop culture stuff, like why? Like, why don't you know how to have fun? Like, this country is honestly in the toilet. Like, it's ass. The economy's bad. The job market's bad. The housing market's bad. Inflation is up. This country is in shambles. And you telling me I'm not allowed to come on here and talk about Kim Kardashian's chemical cut? Really? I didn't talk about it. I just consumed the content. It wasn't me, Kim. It wasn't me. I liked the Kardashian show. I actually have seen the full show, the keeping up part, I had seen anyways. But like, y'all honestly be mad strict around here. And I was honestly like, I don't know why y'all just feel like we can't multitask. Like, damn, like, people be like, there are more important things happening. Okay, that is so true. There are more important things happening, but we can do both. We can do both. We can talk about Kim Kardashian's hair, and we can also talk about the problems in this country. We can do it all. We can multitask. The same way you can go to work and make time to go to your work bestie and talk about the office gossip, you can also make time to talk about these celebrities and how they messed up last week. There's time to do it all, okay? And I just don't know when we moved away from being able to just have fun on the internet. Like, damn. We can't just come on here and have a good time anymore. But also at the same time, there's a part of me that's like, being a hater is so important. You know what I'm saying? Like, we need those people in the comment sections that are like, I don't know why y'all care so much about celebrities. I don't know why y'all need to go touch grass. Who would we be? Like, what kind of society would we be if we didn't have haters? You know what I'm saying? Like, the Kendrick Lamar and Drake beef, that's so interesting because at our core, everybody is a hater of something, And I think it's just important that we amplify those voices as well. Like I don't like, some of y'all are really strict around here about that. I don't know why y'all care so much, because I'm at that point, I'm just like, girl, scroll away. Because who asked? Honestly, who asked? We on here trying to have a good time, and here you go trying to kill the vibe. But at the same time, we need haters. Like, you need a hater in your ear every now and then to remind you, to tell you that, oh, that thing you like is lame, or it's boring, or it's for losers, or it's gross. You need that. Honestly, I think that those kind of like, those haters, they build morals. You know what I mean? Like, they really build a backbone. Like, I think that we all need each other. So like, honestly, if you're one of those people who gets down like that, keep doing what you're doing. Because we need you. We do. Like, if I ain't have somebody in my ear telling me that what I did was lame and whack, it's like, well, how would I know to stand up for something, to stand on my business? If I ain't have somebody in my ear talking about, you're a loser, you're lame, nobody cares, I would never be able to stand up for nothing. It builds backbone. It builds morals. Guys, keep doing what you're doing. We all need each other. You know what I'm saying? We all need each other. Anyways, that's my soapbox for the week. I think the next thing we're going to talk about is definitely Raven Symoné and her wife, Miranda. If for the people who don't know, which there's a lot of lore behind this, there is. Raven Symoné has a podcast, I believe, and she had gone on another podcast and has been on a couple of podcasts. I think she's been on Keke Palmer's podcast. She's been on Fanita's podcast, and then they have their own. And basically, the thing that always gets clipped whenever they go and do interviews together is Raven Symoné's wife talking about how she's never seen the stuff that Raven did, like the stuff that she was in, like the Cheetah Girls, That's So Raven, stuff like that. And that's kind of just like the thing that always gets clipped. Even when they were on the Keke Palmer podcast, that's the thing that got clipped. In the Fanita podcast, that's the thing that got clipped. In the podcast that they did together, that Raven and Miranda have together, that Fanita was guest starring on, they talked about that. Like, that's what got clipped in all three of those scenarios, right? So it's confusing when that episode that Fanita did dropped. And then people were in the comments like, oh, like, here they go again talking about how she's never seen anything Raven was in. And people were upset about that because they're like, I don't know, like, what you're getting out of coming on the internet and telling everybody that. Like, it's not cool. It's not funny. Like, it's kind of boring, kind of whack. And there have been, that was one take. And then there are other takes of like, it doesn't matter. Like, Raven probably likes having somebody around who didn't grow up, like, watching her stuff and who knows who she is or whatever. And so then that's when Fanita came on the internet and was like, you guys have got to stop with all these comments and stuff and these like think pieces and videos, because Miranda, it's not like that. And basically she was just trying to say, like, people were taking it out of hand and out of context. And if you go back and watch the whole podcast episode, you'd understand what they were talking about and you'd get more context on it. And there were a lot of people who were kind of like, yeah, you're right. Like, I watched the episode and in context, like this clip was taken out of context. But then there were a lot of other people on the internet who were kind of like, this is your podcast. You clipped it. Everybody knows that when you go and do like a podcast, you go and you like talk about like the most like interesting pieces of the podcast. You go and clip those and you post them on other social media platforms so you can get other people to come and watch the episode, right? And that was the clip that this is her podcast. That's the clip that she allowed to get clipped and posted. And then she came on the internet and was like, y'all are doing too much. Y'all have blown all of this up and you're ruining it. And people were rightfully upset with that take because it was like, I didn't clip it. We didn't tell you to clip that part. You clipped that part. And not only that, that's the part that's been clipped in every other interview that they've done. And it that simmered down. Okay. It had simmered down. I thought I saw the takes on it and then that was it. I made no comment. I still have no comment. Then I want to say yesterday or 2 days ago, Raven and Miranda came on TikTok or Instagram, or I don't even know what platform it was originally posted on. I think it was TikTok, but they came on here and they were sitting in front of the camera and they were like, stop with the death threats and the comments. It's wrong and it's disrespectful to the both of them. And immediately I went to the comments and nobody in the comments was taking this seriously. That's exactly what I expect from people of the internet. That's exactly what I expect. And that's why the internet is gone undefeated once again, okay? People were in the comments talking about, see y'all, now we got silent lunch. Thanks a lot, guys. Now we in trouble. We ain't got no recess. Why she yelling at me? I ain't do nothing. Why Raven looking at me like that? I ain't do it. I ain't even say nothing. It was just really funny and it was just super funny. Like, you had to be there. Like, people on the internet are funny as hell. But I will say, and a lot of people were saying, death threats is crazy. Like, people who are sending her death threats because they're mad that she didn't grow up watching Raven is crazy. Like, I'm not even going to sit here and, like, excuse that because it is insane. But at the same time, there were a lot of people who were like, this is so unserious. Like, it feels like I'm watching an SNL skit. They must be joking. And I actually ended up seeing another TikTok of somebody who had stitched what had happened. And they were like, honestly, like, this is still not our fault. Like, y'all are coming on the internet and blaming us for the backlash, but Miranda has come on the internet and consistently said, I didn't watch, I don't know anything Raven was in. Like, that was a big haha joke. And now that people aren't doing the ha-haing with you and calling you out on it, now it's a problem. And I have no thoughts. I have no thoughts, no notes, because, like, that's a valid point. Again, the entirety of the situation to me is a lot. First of all, don't be weird and send death threats to people. Like, I don't know why people are doing that anyways. Like, y'all did a lot there. But it's also... So, yeah, like I've said before, two things can be true at once. Stop sending death threats to people that you don't know, but also just stop sending death threats to people in general, because that's weird. That's not weird to you. Come on now. Let's have some decorum, okay? Don't send death threats to people. Hard stop. End topic. Next topic. Coming on the internet and blaming the consumers for what was posted on the internet by you or by somebody else, and then you coming on the internet, that person coming on the internet and blaming us for the conversations that we're having about it. We didn't make you clip that podcast clip. Like, it's still like, this is not a black and white situation. Don't send death threats. Yes, super disrespectful to do that. Leave them people alone. At the same time, Fanita, don't come on here yelling at me because you're mad that you posted a clip of the podcast that you okayed that. Like, at the end of the day, you said, yep, I'm okay with this one getting out. This is the one that I want for people to get people to go watch the episode. Can't be mad at us for that. Like, damn, I We ain't make you clip it. And you knew what was going to happen there. Like, everybody knows what happens when you clip an episode of the podcast. It's the idea is to get engagement, to get people interested, to get people having a conversation about it. Whether or not they watch the podcast, that's up to them. But don't be talking about it's out of context when you posted the clip out of context. Really hard to feel bad and empathize for these people at this time. But yeah, basically what we learned from the situation is leave them two ladies alone and let them sit over there. Honestly, stop sending death threats too. Like, that's weird. Leave them people alone. Anywho, next topic. Oh, Dua Lipa's new album, Radical Optimism. Y'all know I have been waiting patiently for this album to drop, and I'm really happy that it's out. I listened to it. I was supposed to be up at midnight yesterday, but because I've been so excited about my podcast, I haven't been sleeping that great, which is the reason that I'm up at 8 a.m. recording this episode. I haven't been sleeping that great, and I fell asleep, but then I woke up at like 1 a.m. and I was like, I have to listen to the album. So I went and I put my little headphones in, or I didn't even put my headphones in. I went to go take a bath and I listened to it then. And I listened to it and I have 1000% no notes. I give the album like a 9.5 out of 10. Like, I really enjoyed the album. At first I didn't get it. I wasn't seeing the vision. I was like, girl, what the hell am I listening to? Like, what's going on? And then as I listened to it more, I started to understand, like, she was like, this is going to be sad, like, dance crying music. And once I got it. At the beginning of the album, I was confused because it's like a different sound than her other stuff. But once I really got in there, I was like, oh yeah, this is art right here. She's done it again. And honestly, I give people like a month and I feel like they're going to see the vision. They're going to get it. I feel like it's also definitely an album that you don't just listen to one time and then just decide that you don't like it. I feel that way about any album. I don't think that you ever just like listen to an album and then you just decide it's not good off the first listen. Because I even have an album that I don't enjoy, like Wonder by Shawn Mendes, terrible album. Loud as Hell, I dislike it. I've heard it many times. I even like know the songs. I don't like that album though. It's not his best work. I think that we could have done better. The production is just loud. The lyrics are lackluster, quite boring, flat even. And I think he missed the mark on that album as a whole. But again, there's things that I can take from it and enjoy. But this Dua Lipa album, it's amazing, and I think everybody should go listen to it, and you have to listen to it more than once. So to really get it and see the vision, you gotta listen to it more than once. And then, like I said, you'll get it. And once you get it, you got it. And the album's just really great. So definitely go listen to that. I'm a Dua Lipa stan. I've talked about her before on this podcast. And she's amazing. So if Dua Lipa ever hears this, or I ever meet Dua Lipa, I've always supported you. Since I found you. Since I heard, what was that song? That Moi one. That was good. That was really good. That song hooked me. And then I stumbled across, what's that other one? One, Don't Pick Up the Phone because I'm only calling because I'm drinking alone. New Rules. I found that song later in life. Like, I think it was like a year after it was popular. I found like the video and started listening to the song and I was like, oh wow, she's good. Because I'm a girl who doesn't want to believe in the hype at first. So I'll be denying that. I'll be denying the song and the albums and stuff at first. And then I'll go and listen to it later and I'm like, a hit. These people, they ate. They were right. She is talented. She ate that up. And that's where I've been. And go listen to the album if you haven't already. It's really great. It's pop. So if you're not into pop, maybe don't listen to it. But if you are into pop, you need something new to listen to. You're looking for some new music. You want to dance cry this summer. You want to feel like you're going on like a summer. You want some good like summer vacation, like riding around town in the car during the summer. If that's what you're looking for, that album is the one for you. Anywho. Next topic. Oh yeah, I already talked about that. That's good. Basically, I have two more things, I think. Actually, just one, because the other thing is like super embarrassing. Sometimes, especially earlier on in the week, I'll have recorded the episode for like the week, and then I'll be like, okay, I need to start coming up with topics for next week's episode. And then I'll go and like the first idea I put on the like page is like something that I definitely thought, and I'm not denying that I thought, but also something that I would actually never publicly say because I'm not in that same headspace anymore because it was at the beginning of the week. See, so now I've been like traumatized throughout the week with like my negative thoughts and stuff and like the podcast and like the like excitement that I felt yesterday when I posted it and then I talked about it and then I ended up like I actually got some really great DMs from people. Actually, let me talk about this. I talked about I had some really great DMs from people who I posted about the new podcast, and there was actually somebody who commented from Croatia, and they were like, "Oh, like I'm so excited that you're doing this. Like it's really hard to keep up with like WNBA here," and that's super exciting. That like somebody from like across the world is like excited to hear my podcast. Like, oh my gosh, it's so exciting. But also, somebody else had like DM'd me on TikTok and they were like, I'm excited to like for your podcast and stuff. I just really just wanted to hear like a regular girl talk about basketball. So it's really gonna be really cool and awesome and fun. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, like guys, this is what I'm like this is what I went to school for. Like, this is what I've dreamed of doing. Like, this is so exciting. Like, guys, I'm really that girl low key. Like, I'm that girl. And I have so many ideas and I'm just so excited about like this right now. So like, it's like, yeah, I'm about to lose my stable job, but also I'm super excited for like what is going on in my life right now and what's to come. And I'm just really excited about like the potential of what this could be. And yeah, so that's really great. Anyways, but I did want to say that because I had ended up putting something in my notes that I heard to discuss because I just started talking about it at the beginning of the episode. But I was going to talk about how the ideas I get at night are like really crazy. And I'm like on the grind of my life right now, which I am. I have been working so hard this week on like just making sure that this podcast got made, and then like also now that it's out and I know that there are people out there who like want to listen to it and want to keep up with it and stuff, because I actually got like 2 comments on the video when I posted it on YouTube yesterday. Like so now it's like I know that there's like an audience for what I want to do, and also I'm just like super excited because I just really love basketball so much and I'm so excited to be able to talk about it. And yeah, and I'm just really proud of myself for being able to like have a vision for something and go out there and do it and believe in myself and believe that I can do it. And yeah, I'm just really happy with like where I'm at right now and who I am right now. And I just hope that other people can be inspired by this. So like if you have a dream or a goal or something, I think it's really important that you go and do that thing. And I think the most important thing that I learned in school while I was going to school for media entrepreneurship, and especially now, is that you don't need like a ton of money to do something. Like I think that's like probably one of the biggest misconceptions in like when it comes to like you having a dream or like a vision or a goal, is that you need, oh, I need seed money, I need an investor, I need to take a loan out, I need to do this, that, and the third. Sometimes you just need like $150 and a dream. You know what I'm saying? Like this podcast happens because at the time when I was working at Chicken Salad Chick, scooping chicken salad, literally making chicken salad sandwiches, putting chicken salad scoops on top of salads, okay, and putting soup in those little cups. When I was doing that, I was like had a little bit of money, and I was like, ooh, I went and bought Logic for my computer so that I could record the podcast. I could start recording music and stuff. And then I bought this mic, and it came with like these headphones and this like this thing. I'd be forgetting what it's called. And like now I come on here and I have my phone and I prop it up, record the audio, have iMovie, sync up the audio and the video, and I do what I do. And sometimes I'd be using Canva, that's free. Google Slides, that's free. And even like I'm gonna be using like the video game to help me while I'm talking about certain things in my new podcast. And I think like really, that's what I was taught in school when I was in my little entrepreneurship classes, is that you it's important to have like investment money and all that stuff. And yeah, that's true for like a traditional business. But if you want to do stuff that I'm doing like this, you don't need a bunch of money to do something. Like if you want to make music and sing, like just start writing, like start singing on the internet. Like sometimes it really is just like the only thing that you really have to do is get over like the mental hurdle of thinking that it's not going to go well, or that you're not going to get something from just trying. And yeah, so if you're somebody who has a dream, who has a passion, who has a business idea, definitely if you don't need an investor or anything, or if it's something that you can like start doing today, definitely like take the steps to do that. If you have like a dream or a goal or a passion, follow it. Like there's nothing, like when you really think about it, there's nothing in the world that's stopping you from doing that. And maybe I'm just like primed to know that and believe that because I went to school for 4 years and the propaganda was that like you can do, and really my parents told me this, like you can do anything you put your mind to, yes, but also going to school with even like people fail all the time. Like when I was in college, this is actually the next topic and was the last topic of the podcast, was college propaganda. But I think if you like want to go to school and you kind of have like an idea of something that you want to do, I definitely think you should take the risk and do it. Like there are downsides to college, yes, but there are also upsides to college. Like I met my best friends in college and I have become like such an amazing person, like somebody that I'm proud of. There are still things to be worked on. I don't want people to think that I'm gassing my own head up. There are still things to be worked on, yes. But I have become like a version of myself that I know I would never have been if I didn't go to school. And I'm just really proud of like myself for finishing, honestly. Like I think that we diminish that achievement because it feels like everybody does it, but college is hard. Like I'm telling you guys, like back when I had a life coach in my life, and she told me that college is about self-discipline and perseverance. That is so real. College is really just testing you to see if you're able to do something at like a steady rate while other things in your life are happening. Because at the end of that, that's really what college is. That's really what having a job is. Like college is literally no matter what, you're going to have to learn this thing and you're going to have to do these assignments and take these tests. But also, can you balance that with like your personal life? Or maybe like a job while you're in school. Like how are you balancing those things? How are you balancing like the ups and downs of life and the things that you naturally experience as a young adult and while you're in college? Like college is really just a test of that. And I think that if you're able to accomplish college, like bro, there's really nothing that you can't do, truthfully. And well, not too much, because I don't rob a bank, like don't like commit a crime, you know what I'm saying? But like regular people stuff, there's nothing that can hold you back from doing regular people stuff. But during my time in college, like I was saying before, my college experience was a lot of like just discussing failure all of the time. And to the point that it was like every single class you were going to talk about failure, at least for like the entrepreneurship classes and business classes, because you're always learning about, oh my God, you're always learning about so many things. You're learning about how to properly build a business validation models, the pre-planning and post-planning. You're learning about how to put together an idea and the value in the customer target and all of these things, a bunch of charts and just a bunch of things, and making sure you're doing your research and all this stuff. And like, yeah, all of those things are important. Sure. At the same time, though, like I said, you're always just talking about failure. You're always talking about business ideas that didn't work and then eventually leading to things that did work. Like, oh, this person failed 12 times before they ever got they ever got like their feet off the ground. Like this person did this and it didn't go well and it went terribly and now they're doing this. And you watch the Shark Tank about the scrub daddy and the scrub mommy and all of those things. And at the time I was kind of like, this is so annoying. Like, why are we always talking about failure? Like, I actually had to do a presentation and like a pitch thing. Like, we did pitches so often. I was so tired of a pitch. My goodness. Like, always presenting something. And it's not even that I had a problem with presenting something, because I literally come on the internet and yap. So I clearly have no problem doing that. It was just like, again, the mental hurdle of like, oof, are people going to think this is stupid? Like, do I look lame? Do I even believe in this thing? But anyways, there was this assignment that I had to do, and you basically had to go and talk about your greatest failure. And my greatest failure at that time was, I was in this accounting class, and I had to take 2 accounting classes, and I tell you that I bombed every single one of my tests. And I really mean that. I'm talking, I was getting 32s, 46s, 50s, like, we only had like 4 exams, and then there was like the final, and we had homework assignments and stuff. And I was going to class and I was doing the homework and I was trying to understand, but it didn't make sense to me. And I was literally, that was the lowest point. I've actually had lower points more recently, but at the time, that was one of the lowest points of my life, because I had never really experienced failure before like that. Like, I've experienced controlled failure, but never the version of failure that I was experiencing there. It is such a helpless feeling to be trying so hard at something, to be going to class and be paying attention and trying really hard and studying and still failing. Like, there is no, like, I don't even know if you understand how disheartening it is. Like, it's one thing to fail a test or something because you didn't study or you didn't come to class or whatever. That's one thing, because it's like, at least you can point to the problem. I was in this class and I was trying so hard, and it just did not matter. Like, I was studying, I was doing the practice problems, I was doing the homework, I was going to the office hours, I was going to the study sessions, and it just wasn't making sense. Like, I felt so helpless. I'm telling you, I would cry to my mother every time I would get the score back from these tests, because I was like, I was in shambles. I'm pretty sure I was recording this podcast at the time. I was definitely recording this podcast at the time. And I was just so sad, because I was like, I'm trying so hard and like, I'm just still failing. And so I ended up doing my report on that. And people were they giggled they at the beginning, because I was like, yeah, I failed literally almost every single test in that class. At the end, the final exam, I stayed up for 2 days and was just studying. We're talking no shower. We're talking, I was in my room, like, just studying and just sitting stagnant, okay? And I just remember the day after, like, I took the test, like, and I had to take the test early in the morning. And it was during the pandemic. I took the test, like, early in the morning, and I, like, did it, and I was so nervous. And everybody kept telling me to cheat. This was what the problem was. Everybody kept telling me to cheat. They were like, just go on Chegg. Just Chegg has the answers. And for me, like, I'm sorry. Like, I get it. Like, sometimes you do just need help. Like, and I'm not going to say that I never cheated. I'm not too much, because, I was going to have that split screen with the Quizlet on some stuff. But, like, I was going to look back at my notes during that little pandemic time. You know what I'm saying? Flip it up. I had a little note sheet underneath by the blanket. Anyways, I already got my degree, so I ain't gonna do nothing to me. You know what I'm saying? But anyways, there are moments like that, yes. But I never wanted to cheat. Like, I just couldn't do it. Like, I don't know. There's something in me that, like, I just can't cheat. It was literally like I wanted to earn the grade. Like, my head, like, I won't even say that's like a big headed thing or like an egotistical thing. Like, I just have wanted, like, I've just always wanted to earn my grades. Like, I've always wanted to earn the things that I get. And I was like, I'm not cheating. Like, I don't care if I could literally fail the test. And I had already signed up to retake the class in the summer. I was like, if I have to pay out of pocket, I have to pay out of pocket. Like, it is what it is. But I was definitely like, this is going to be interesting. Sorry, I just read a YouTube comment. Anyways, but I was definitely like, I don't care if I fail. If I fail, then I fail and I have to just try again. But I'm going to earn the grade and I'm going to try my hardest. And I stayed up that night and I studied hard. And I passed the test. Guys, I passed and I got a C. I got a C in the class and I was so proud of myself. No funny stuff. Like, I was so proud of myself because I was like, I failed all semester to get to this moment. And wow, the relief. And then I took accounting too. And y'all know I did not do good in that class. I got a D actually, and I was so sick because I had been working so hard, and that was really tough for me. It didn't hurt as bad as like the first time because at that point I had experienced those failures before. I was like, I just don't get it. I'm gonna be okay, and I was not okay. But anyways, that's besides the point. But that's what I did throughout the majority of like college is like I would talk about failure, and we would amplify failure, and so now I'm just really primed into always thinking like, oh, even if something fails, like just try again, pivot. Like I've gone to school to literally like condition myself for the inevitability of failure. Like if things go great, that's amazing. But like if they don't though, damn. But like it's really awesome, really great. And I just really think everybody just, if you get the opportunity to go to college, you definitely should do that. But back to what I was saying, I've been like, we talk about failure and all that stuff. And now I'm not necessarily afraid to fail. It's other mental hurdles of like, do I believe in myself to do it? It's not necessarily that I'm afraid to fail at anything. It's not necessarily that I'm afraid that nobody's ever going to watch my podcast and nobody's going to pay attention to what I have to say. Nobody's going to care what I say. I really don't care if anybody cares what I say. It's really more so about me. Am I proud of what I did? Do I believe in the thing that I'm doing? Do I see this going well? Do I see a vision for it? Do I see a future for it? And if those answers are yes, and if I can find enough courage to post something, if I can just believe in myself for like 5 seconds to hit publish on something or to hit post on something, that's enough. That's good enough. And usually the relief that I feel about that is like usually typically outweighs that anxiousness. Like the voice of anxiety is super loud. And I just saw a TikTok of this guy talking about this. I'm going to link that video too, because he cooked in that video. And it was honestly like something that I needed to hear. But he was talking about how, I think somebody had asked, how do you differentiate between anxiety and intuition? And he was kind of just like, anxiety is like just a really loud voice. And whereas intuition is more of like a calm noise, like think of like waves crashing, like it's a sound or like it's a voice that makes sense. Like anxiety is just like loud. It's always thinking about what could go wrong, what are the possibilities of everything going wrong. But if you're always thinking about that, you're never going to do anything in your life. And not to sound like a motivational speaker or anything, but it really is true. Like if you're just always constantly thinking about how everything's going to go wrong and how everything's going to fail, you're never going to do anything that you've always wanted to do. And then you're going to live your life with those regrets of not doing that thing when you should have or could have. And it's never too late to do the thing that you want to do. Like for me, I used to think it was the end of the world that I wasn't like making music on the internet, or I haven't ever released music yet. And I've learned now, obviously, like with school and through like the stuff that I'm doing now, I'm like, it's not the end yet. Like I'm literally 23. I have so many more years ahead of me. I have more years ahead of me than I have behind me. And things can only get better from here. And if I can just believe in myself and be myself while doing these things, these projects, this podcast, the Girls Who Like Hoops podcast, making music, making TikToks on the internet, making content, whatever. If I can just believe in myself long enough to do all of those things, like I can do anything. Like I can believe in myself and I can basically live the life that I've dreamed and I've always wanted, and everything's going to be great. Like if I can get over that and live outside of fear, in almost every aspect of my life. And if I can fall in love with the process of the things that I'm doing, the results will eventually come. And everything that's meant for me will be meant for me. And if I just believe in something and if I have passion for it, eventually I'll end up where I'm supposed to be. It may not be where I envision myself to be, but it's going to be where I'm supposed to be. And it's going to be in a place where, I have something to gain and I can learn from something. And that's really all life is. It's just learning lessons about things. And yeah, and so that's my college propaganda. I really do think, like, I was definitely talking about failure and stuff like that and believing in yourself. But I really do think if you do have something that you want to do, you should do it. And if you're kind of hesitant on or questioning whether or not to go to college, I definitely think take the gap year. College is I think college is really great. It's obviously also not for everybody. Just because I had a good experience doesn't mean that everybody's going to have a good experience. But I think if you're looking to test yourself and you have something that you want to do and it requires a degree, you definitely should go and do that and pursue it. And I think you're going to come out a lot better for it. There's like the whole like loans and being nervous about that and picking the right school. But I think if you're able to pick the right school and you kind of just like stop worrying so much about what's going to be happening in the future and the money and the finances of everything, I think everything always turns out okay. Like, I'm going to be done paying my loans, hopefully by the time I'm 32, hopefully before then. If y'all can make me famous, I can put these loans off and we can be having a good time. But anyways, I'm going to be done paying my loans off by like 32. And I don't even think that's that bad. Like, I still have a lot of years after that. You know what I'm saying? I still have a lot of time to do the things that I want to do after that time. And I think everything's just going to be okay. Everything's going to be great. But I hope that you got something out of this episode. I really enjoy like recording these and making them. Like, this podcast is honestly like, I don't care if I'm the only person who goes back and watches them or listens to them. Like, I'm just proud of this. I'm proud that I have had the courage to come on here for the past couple of years and just talk about things that are important to me. And I hope that this helps somebody eventually in life. And yeah, and also to the girl who told me to clean my room last week, listen here. I have a tiny room, first of all, okay? I didn't grow up in some big, marvelous thing, okay? I have this twin-size bed. I have 3 guitars behind me and a piano and dressers and drawers, okay? First of all, I don't have a lot of room to work with, okay? The closet's tiny. You see it. You see it. I don't have a ton of space to work with. It's what I got. I did have a little junk on the bed last week. I'm not even going to sit here and deny that. But you ain't have to call me out like that. You had started the comment off real good, okay? You were like, oh, this was relatable and interesting commentary. I like this. But please clean your room. Oh my God, girl. Because you ain't have to clock me like that. That was really nasty of you. And see, I was going to delete the comment, but I believe in free speech. I do. I was going to delete the comment even though I was feeling really slighted. I was feeling really slighted, but I was like, I'm gonna let her cook. I'm gonna let her have that. Cause you know what? I deserve to be called out. And I made sure it was cleaned up this week. So not too much. That's 1. 2, somebody had also commented, I had ended up responding and I was like, girl, it was a really tough week. Like, I'm sorry. Like, also I don't have money for a backdrop, so that's not happening. But somebody ended up commenting back after I had commented that, and they were like, oh my gosh, yeah, it was a rough week. I hope your week gets better or something like that. And they were like, excited for like whatever you have in the future. And I was like, I needed that. Damn, I needed that. I needed to hear that. Thank you. Thank you. Big ups to you for being inspirational in the comment section. Cause I was feeling like I was really hurt. I was like, damn, why is she in my business anyways? That's besides the point. Back on topic. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode this week. I had a good time recording it. I had fun. And I hope we all learned something from this. I'm going to go so that it's like 8:30 a.m. right now. So I have to go so that I can post this episode and it be up so I can do my promo. If you're interested in more content that I have, everything is in the link tree below. Like I said, you can follow me on social media and all the things. I'll see you guys back here next Saturday. And yeah, we'll yap some more. I guess I'll see y'all next week. Bye.